Irish rappers Kneecap are the darlings of social media with a slew of awards and celebrity fans. But it's their firebrand politics currently dominating global headlines.
In June of 2025, a controversy around the band Kneecap erupted all over world news.
A member of the Irish language rap group Kneecap has appeared in London's Westminster Magistrates Court today, facing a charge of terrorism.
A rap group from Belfast rapping in a language most people didn't even know still existed. They dared to fly the Irish tricolour next to a Palestinian flag on stage at Coachella, on one of the biggest stages in the world. Most headlines called it a provocation, but the truth is simpler and much deeper. That moment on stage wasn't about shock or attention. It came from a shared history most people don't even know exists. A history of language banned, identity criminalized, and resistance passed down like an heirloom. This is the story of three men carrying the weight of their culture in their every word. A culture nearly erased, a language outlawed, a history buried. This is a story about Ireland, about language's resistance. About how history doesn't just sit in museums. It lives in families, flags, and words we're told not to say. And it's a story about empires, how their bloody shadows stretch across borders, leaving scars that echo for generations. So who are Kneecap, and why do they matter?
There are 80,000 native Irish speakers in Ireland. 3 of us have become rappers.
Kneecap's a rap group from Belfast. They rap in Irish, and that choice means everything.
3 stars, a hard day's night, except for some shit West Belfast band.
For centuries, the British ruled the north of Ireland by force. They outlawed the Irish language, banned it from schools, and stripped it from public life. For a long time, the Irish language nearly disappeared. Kneecap grew up in the shadow of that silence and decided not to stay quiet. Their music isn't just music, it's not just sound, it's resistance. It's the cultural memory of an entire nation.
I mean, identity's everything. I think a lot of people in Ireland, particularly, up the north side of it anyway, are having a bit of an identity crisis. So once you speak the language, you know who you are as a person.
It's what happens when the thing meant to be erased refuses to die. During the Troubles, an Irish prisoner named Bobby Sands went on a hunger strike. He died at the age of 27. But before he did, he wrote in his diary, "Our revenge will be the laughter of our children." Kneecap is that laughter. But to truly understand this story, we have to go back.
You've heard of intergenerational trauma, right?
Right.
Our history.
Our history has become
Our biology.
Ireland was once fully under British control. That rule lasted for centuries, and it wasn't passive. Irish land was taken, the language was banned, famines were manufactured, and rebellion was met with instant violence. In 1916, Irish Republicans launched an uprising against British control. It failed, but the response, mass arrests, executions, ignited a wave of support across the country. By 1921, a deal was struck. Most of Ireland would become independent, but 6 counties in the north would stay under British control. That was the beginning of the north of Ireland. It was built for loyalist Protestant control. For Catholics, it meant fewer rights, worse housing, limited jobs, and no real say in government. But by the late 1960s, civil rights protests were growing. The police cracked down and the British Army moved in. The conflict escalated into 3 decades of bombings, shootings, and surveillance. They call it the Troubles. Thousands were killed, tens of thousands more were injured or imprisoned, neighborhoods were divided by walls, and fear became the new normal. And through it all, Irish identity, especially the language, was still seen as dangerous.
Mrs. Thatcher will be remembered long after Kneecap are forgotten. Mrs. Thatcher.
She'll be remembered as a...
The scars from the Troubles still aren't fully healed. In Belfast, neighborhoods remain divided by peace walls. Flags mark territory. Murals still signal which side you're on. It wasn't until 2022 that the Irish language was officially recognized as legal by the UK government. In 2001, an organized gang of loyalists threw rocks and balloons full of piss at Catholic schoolgirls for simply walking to school. Every summer, orange marches fill the street, meant to celebrate Protestant identity, but often used to provoke. They don't just wave flags, they burn them. Effigies of the Pope are set on fire. Among the flames, you'll see signs that read KAT, kill all tags, tag being a slur for Irish Catholic. These aren't just traditions, they're tactics, meant to intimidate, humiliate, and silence. And they've been used for over a century to suppress Irish Catholic identity. Which brings us to the Black and Tans. The Black and Tans were a British paramilitary force sent to Ireland in 1920. They were made up of ex-soldiers, policemen, and convicted criminals. Their job was to crush the Irish independence movement. They earned infamy fast. The reputation was built on reprisals, burning property, looting, arbitrary violence, and attacks on civilians. In Balgorgan, they burned homes and businesses, made hundreds of innocent civilians homeless. In Cork, they deliberately torched the city center and destroyed hundreds of buildings, including key city infrastructure. They also opened fire on the firefighters attempting to stop the blaze. One of the most shocking single deaths was Eileen Quinn, a young mother in Galway. On All Saints' Day in 1920, while waiting at home with her children, she was shot by Black and Tans passing by. Her baby was in her arms. Her death became one of the many stories that embedded the terror in living memory. But that violence didn't stay in Ireland. By 1922, dozens of black and tans were redeployed to Palestine under the British mandate. The man in charge, Major General Henry Hugh Tudor, had overseen counterinsurgency in Ireland. He brought that same playbook with him. One former black and tan, Douglas Duff, became a legend for all the wrong reasons. In Palestine, he whipped civilians in the street, kicked down doors, took over buildings, tossed a clerk in his desk out a second-story window. In Nablus, another officer allegedly kept a man's brain in a tin as a trophy after a rifle beating. These weren't accidents. This was a strategy. It was transplanted violence. The same methods that policed Ireland were used to crush Palestinian identity. That connection binds Palestinian and Irish people. It's born from a shared experience, a common colonizer, a common tactic, a common wound. So when Kneecap raises a Palestinian flag on stage, it's not provocation. It's memory and the weight of shared scars. It's about authorship, about refusing to let someone else decide what your history means. Seamus Heaney wrote, "Whatever you say nothing," to describe the unwritten rules of survival for Catholics during the Troubles. Words were dangerous. Language could get you watched, labeled, or worse. So people learned to withhold, to edit themselves, to bury parts of who they were in the name of safety. That silence didn't end with the peace agreements. It calcified into something deeper, generational caution. A sense that speaking Irish, being Irish, showing pride, telling your side of the story could still make you a target. But silence is how stories disappear. As Patrick Pearce once said, a country without a language is a country without a soul. Kneecap took the language that had been beaten out of classrooms and turned it into something that couldn't be ignored. Their music doesn't just preserve Irish, it pushes it forward. It takes the Irish language out of history books and puts it on stage, in the streets, in the mouths of people who never thought they'd speak it.
Yeah, could you play Kneecap?
When Bobby Sands wrote, "Our revenge will be the laughter of our children," he didn't mean payback, he didn't mean violence, he meant endurance. That after the prisons, the hunger strikes, the funerals, there would still be something left, that Irish identity wouldn't fade, that someone would still be laughing, still speaking, still alive, still Irish. History doesn't live in museums, it lives in what people carry, what they fight for, and the only way your story gets told is if you're the one speaking. That's why Kneecap matters.